Hello and welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. The date is June 25th, 2023. Now, in the past episode, this past week, you guys have heard me talk about organizing this weekend Night Strike Self-Defense Workshop for the blind. And it happened yesterday on the 24th, and we trained all day from 10 a.m. all the way to almost 5 p.m. So, if you have ever been curious or interested to see, well, what do these blind people do when they get together and do martial arts, then I invite you to take a look at uh, this week's Survival Saturday, which had a segment from the workshop itself. So you can sort of hopefully get a feel for what we do, why we do it, and how much fun it is. And if you so feel like it, we are always looking for funding and donation. So you can get in contact with me if you want to support blind people becoming more safe, more independent, more confident. Uh, one these workshops are quite expensive, and ever since COVID, we have not actively done any fundraiser. So, suffice to say, right now, every time we do one of these workshops, it's coming out of my own pocket. And while it is my project, so I don't mind doing that, but it is a definite strain on me personally. This last workshop, for example, altogether probably cost about $200, having to take care of food and lodging and transportation for students. And uh, on top of that, one of the students broke the training room window, so I need to get that fixed tomorrow. God knows how much it's going to cost. So, yes, if you watch and follow our progress for our self-defense for the blind, and if you have enjoyed these daily video, then I ask you to consider uh, doing a donation or just support us and in what we do. Now, some of you may notice that I am not sounding as chipper as usual, and this is because after organizing and running one of these workshops, I am usually really, really drained both physically and emotionally. So today I am not at my best. Uh, Yesterday I spent all day on my feet, making sure everyone got food, making sure food got delivered, making sure everyone had what they needed, and making sure equipment get put away, and obviously doing the teaching and all that stuff. So uh, I was up at 7:30 in the morning. I didn't get to bed until 2 a.m. So that was a long day. And the day before that, I also got up early and spent the entire day organizing food and ordering food and transportation and all that details, making sure everyone was on the same page. So it's 2 days hectic activity, very demanding. So, excuse me if I'm not sounding my best today, but uh, tired being what it is, I know I will recover, and we still have to do a Soul Search Sunday. So, what are we going to talk about? Hmm. There's this really old Chinese quote that sound something like "三思而后行." 在思而行义, something like that. And you don't have to memorize it, but because I'll tell you what it means. This roughly translates into think many times before you commit, but think only once before you act. Think many times before you commit, but only think once before you act. What is What is that about? Well, in our lifetime, we often come across two extremes of people. One, people who think, plan, meeting, and nothing ever get done. And then we also have the other kind of people, that, like the bull in the china shop. You say something, there's a good idea, and off they go. And nothing get planned, everything is on the dime and improvised and spontaneous. Both type of people can be very frustrating to deal with. Uh, and we can debate all day this which way is better, but there is a happy medium. Or so there is a compromise. And this old Chinese wisdom, this old bit of Chinese wisdom, has shown us that this is how they felt that should be done, which is plan many times before you commit and only think once. Think many times before you commit and think only once before you act. So uh, on the surface, that is very obvious. Okay, so think many times before you commit. Before you commit to a course of action, before you get in the car and start driving, before you go to the store and start shopping, this is the time when you go through your checklist of planning and meetings. Do we really need this? How much of it do we need? How much is it going to cost? Do we really need it that badly? How long is it going to last? And where do I need to go to get it? Who do I need to bring with me to help me carry this? And if there anywhere I should go check that it might be cheaper. All these, I'm just rattling things off from top of my head, but this is the period of time before you are at the store, before you get in the car, when you are still sitting down. This is the time to and think some more. Right? This is good. This is when you want to think some more. Um, Before you get to the store, think, okay, this week, what do I feel like? It would be nice to have some shrimp and maybe fish next week. Yeah. I haven't had fish for a while. That sounds good. What's good with fish? What do I need? This is the time to plan all that out. Okay. Uh, and only think once before you act. When you are hungry now, this is not the time to plan, think. Because the more you do it, the more you hungry you get, and then the more bad decision you end up making because you're hungry. Okay, so when you are hungry, the only thing you should really think about, and you think about it once, what do I feel like? What can I afford? Oh, well, that technically that's two things, but that's basically it. All the other stuff, throw it out the window. What do I feel like? Do I have the money for it? Okay, cool. Or do I have the ingredient for it in the in the kitchen? Okay, so this is where you need to be decisive and don't spend all day thinking. Now, obviously, thinking a lot before you commit. This is very self-explanatory why it's beneficial, because before we commit to a course of action, it is good to think and plan for every eventuality and all that stuff. So this is good. Otherwise, you're going to make very impulsive, bad decisions, such as some people go when they hear that gold is good or copper is good, and go and empty out their bank account and go invest in it without really doing the planning and research, because that would be bad, right? So this is a time when you want to really think things out. However, when you actually get to acting, overthinking that, thinking too much before you act can actually be very detrimental to what you're trying to do. So, what are some of the things that can be really detrimental if you overthink a situation before you act? Well, I will name three things for you that is worth considering. Number one, if you overthink, if you think too much before you act, most likely you will end up missing the opportunity. You'll miss the bus. Okay, this is how it went down. This is a true example I will give you. One time I was out shopping with a good buddy of mine. We'll just call him George, as we always do. So George said to me he want to get a new trash can to put in his car between the seats. This way, him and his wife would always have somewhere to put their trash, and they wouldn't have to stick it in the pocket and have that end up in the washing machine later when they forget about it. Yada yada yada. I thought, yeah, okay, good idea. And so we went to the store and it was a very busy day at the store. We finally, after looking around for ages, we found where the trash can were, and we got to the trash can, and George said, "You know what? I don't know what size I need," and I told him, I said, "Well, I believe uh, the the space between your seats is like this wide, like 7 inches wide, and I believe you have about 4 inch, so 7 by 4 of clearance should be cool." And George said, "Yeah, I don't know. I think I should go measure it." Uh, so okay, fine. We went back to the car, measured the space, and it turned out to be like 7 by 5, so I wasn't far wrong. Went back into the store, found the little trash can, finally found a trash can that was the right size, and then just as I said, okay, let's go to the counter, because there's a huge lineup at the checkout. George said, uh, I don't know what color I should get. Uh, I, I don't want to get a color and then my wife doesn't like it. I said, well, why don't you call her? And he said, well, I left my phone in the car. So yeah, you guessed it. Go back to the car, call the wife, and the wife didn't answer, so have to wait for her to call us back. And then all she said was, I don't care. It's a bloody trash can. I don't care what color it is. Just get one. Okay, back to the store we went back, and then we settled on, okay, here's one that's going to fit, and then there's a blue one. Blue one's nice. And just as we were about to get to the counter, George said, I'm kind of thinking plastic might be not very good for warm weather. I think we should look for a metal one. And so, yeah, back to the trash can rack, and we look around for a metal one, and finally found a metal one. I took it to the counter, and just as we were about to put it through the cashier, George said, this is kind of expensive for a small trash can. Maybe we should go look at another store. They might have a cheaper. Okay. By this time, I was about to lose my shit. Okay. I was like, okay, fine. We went to a different store. No, it's not cheaper there. It's actually more expensive. So George and I came back to the original store, and what do you know it? The metal one, the color he wanted, the right size, the one that we found before, gone. Someone bought it already. Bye bye. No more. Had to go get it from the other store. This whole adventure sound like it's not that big of a deal, but I'm telling you, this whole adventure took over 2 hours. 2 hours. We didn't even end up getting a garbage can because when we realized the one that he wanted originally was gone, George was so angry that he said, "F this! I'm not getting one. I'm not going to drive into the other store and get one. It's gone. It's gone." So we didn't get one. So this is a prime example, okay? This was just so silly. Some of you may be wondering, is this even true? Like, that's so silly. How can you guys be this stupid? And believe me, I tried to figure that out too. Like, if he wasn't one of my best friend, I want to smack him upside the head. Uh, for putting me through that. Um, but this is a prime example of when you are trying to act, okay, when you're in the action of buying a freaking trash can, this is not the time to go wishy-washy. This is not the time to figure out color, size, price, figuring all that stuff out. These are the things that you need to figure out before you are standing in the lineup, before you drag your best friend out of the house to go look for a trash can with you. Okay, so in the end, this is a prime example of you take too long making a decision, and then in the end, it's gone. You miss the bus, you miss the opportunity. So missing the opportunity is one of the primary issue with thinking too much before acting. The second thing that can go wrong if you overthink before taking an action is you will lose control. Right? Imagine yourself being a military general and it's early morning and your underlings just reported to you that they spotted the enemy about 5 miles out and they are moving in this direction, but they have not spotted our encampment. And your underlings say, General, should we attack them? This is not a time to start thinking and making a battle plan. That battle plan and tactic should happen last night, the night before you make this encampment, before you decide to camp here. Now that the enemy is only 5 miles away, moving in your direction, this is not the time to think, I don't. I wonder if we have enough number to deal with them. I wonder if the weather is good enough. How is visibility? Do we are all our tanks working? Are all our horses in good health? You guys sharpened your weapons? Which way is the wind blowing? Maybe if the wind is blowing in their direction, then it's better for our arrows and all that stuff. This is not the time for that. Okay, if you spend too long thinking and planning at this stage, most likely what's going to happen is the next thing you hear from your scout is, General, the enemies are at our gate and they are attacking and they are already breaking through our defenses. So what happened there? You spend so long thinking before committing to a decisive action that you lose control. The control is now in the hand of your enemy. You don't have the luxury to make that decision anymore. So this is somewhat related to missing the opportunity. When you start to miss opportunities, you will end up losing control of the situation. Okay, if the military example is a little bit too obscure for some of you, just think if you are sitting down to order food on Skip the Dishes or DoorDash, thank you, or DoorDash, and you are getting pretty hungry, but you're thinking, okay, there's McDonald's, KFC, Wendy's, A&W. Let's look at all their prices. Oh, okay. Which one's cheaper? What about which one of them has the better milkshake? Which one has the quicker delivery time? And if you start doing that, then either in the end you will run to one of the two situations. One is you take so long deciding that you're now so hungry that you end up ordering more than you can eat and spending money pointlessly, making some bad choices all the while. Or number two, you lose control because by the time you decide, okay, let's do KFC, you will find, oops, KFC has now closed. Okay, fine, let's do Church's Chicken. That's kind of like KFC. And then you do Church's Chicken, you're just about to place the order, and you get that message, the restaurant is now closed. Please make another selection. So your control is no longer there. It's being taken away from you. In the end, you might be ordering from McDonald's because not because you want McDonald's, but it's the only restaurant that's left open. The third one Last but definitely not least, this one might be the most detrimental thing that can happen when you think too much before taking an action, when you overthink before acting. Yes, you will lose trust. Right? This is very serious stuff. If you're just doing something yourself, then most likely you'll be fine. Like small things like Uber Eats or like ordering food, buying trash can. Although, even with that example of buying a trash can, that pretty much makes me vow that I'll never go shopping with that friend. I still love him as a friend. I'll never go shopping with him ever again. So that's just a very small example of losing trust. Uh, but in this case, because it's a very small, minute uh, kind of a thing we're talking about, so me not going shopping with him will not impact him that much, right? But if you are someone who is leading a team at work, if you are an owner of a business, if you are a leader in any kind of capacity, then this can be very, very detrimental to whatever you are trying to do. Because no one likes to follow a leader who is not decisive. Because when you are not even decisive, then the rest of us following you, we don't feel very safe. We don't feel very secure. Now, if you are confident and decisive, then it's good. Like, I think most of you have had experiences like that, where you work with somebody who's very confident and decisive. They seem to know every step of the way what's supposed to happen. Even when things go wrong, they still can go forward, they deal with it. It's great working with someone like that because, you know, you don't have to fear that they leave you out to dry, they hang you out to dry. But when you work with somebody who's wishy-washy, never commit to anything, they think, they just keep doing meetings and meetings and plannings and making out planning sessions and papers. Eventually, you run out of steam, and you're like, okay, if they are not even committed, if not, they're not even sure of what we're doing, why should I even care? I can't even begin to tell you how many times I lose faith, I lose interest, I lose trust in an organization or a project because of exactly that. Yes, there's a lot of meeting and no action whatsoever. Uh, Back when I used to do game development for some of you know that I worked for Cyber Assault, an online role-playing game. That was in the end one of the main reasons for me to abandon the game, abandon the development team because all we ever did was meet, talk, research, everyone submit a bunch of paperwork, and then in the end, nothing got done. So in this case, after a certain amount of time, I will decide that you are not worth my time. You're not worth my effort because you're not moving. You're just making me go through all these paperwork and planning and stuff like that for fun. I'm not going to do it anymore. Bye. Bye bye. Not doing it anymore. I'll see you later. Have fun. Good luck. Um, So, a leader who is indecisive, who is wishy-washy before taking action, will usually run into this. You will find that your second in command, the people you trust, your advisors, and people who are following you, working with you, they gradually drift off. They'll move forward. They'll leave without you because you no longer have their trust. So just to consolidate what we have, thinking a lot before committing is good, right? Thinking a lot, covering all the angles, that's great. But overthinking before acting might result in missing out on the opportunity, losing control, and losing trust. I hope that this will be useful for somebody sometime, somewhere down the road. And I thank you for checking out today's episode. And I will be back again tomorrow for some Music Monday with Johnny Tiger. For now, have a good night.